Okay, everyone. I just wanted to show you my tier list. I know that I'm a little bit. I know that some of the picks are not really favorites, but I stand for it. This is my true tier list. This is how I feel it. Um, One thing to keep in mind is that most warframes that are up here are more played by me, but some of them I played less, but I still acknowledge their power. Also, a lot of Warframes that are here in C tier and D tier, I played less, and some Warframes in D tier I almost didn't play. So maybe if I played them more, they would be better. But I really think that they are really shit. So I'm going to. I don't want to talk about every single Warframe. I just want to talk about it in general. So when it comes to tiering, it all depends on what you do in the game. So for me, I do a lot of steel path, I do a lot of survival. So if Warframe is able to survive in steel path, he deserves the best type of grade. So it depends on the Warframe kit, it depends on his survivability, but he doesn't need the survivability if he's able to do something else very great. So that's with that. Also, I hate Warframes that have terrible kits that don't do anything, that have weak kits, which kind of makes sense, and it puts them in the worst type of tiers. There are also some warframes that are very dependent. So when it comes to S tiers, these warframes are absolutely broken. Octavia, obviously, but also Grendel, because he's very tanky and also have 100% armor strip, and he does a lot of damage, has huge buffs for him and his team. He's just a little bit overtuned. Um, he's not that broken that he will deal with like the max level enemies and survive like Octavia does, but he's just overtuned compared to all of the other warframes, and he just deserves to be one tier higher next to Octavia. Then we have the A tier picks, which are usually tanks that are able to survive the most. All of this one are able to survive the most, and these three are not able to survive that much, but all of them can regenerate health, so that makes them kind of tanky. And each of them kind of gives the team something else. I want to talk about Yarley a bit because that is probably the warframe that you didn't expect here. Uh, she has like 75% damage reduction. Her two works like Iron Skin, meaning that you can buff it even at high levels. And she has invincibility frames if you step on Yarley or you go out of her. She has damage amplification on her 1, damage amplification on her passive. She has constant damage on her 3, which also staggers nearby melee enemies. So she has defense against melee enemies, and she also have pull enemies together on her ultimate, making her key just very good. And most important thing is the first thing is that yeah, she has damage amplification, and also she has damage reduction, and she's faster on Merulina. If you are able to use Merulina well, you will be generally faster than other people, and it will require you to press less buttons because if you are trying to move fast, you have to blood jump all the time, roll in the air, use right button to stay there maybe longer, then use left control to do the fast slide, but with Marolina, you just need to play a little bit smarter and you can play a little bit more relaxed. So I like Yarale a lot because of this. Then we have the B tier picks, which are usually quite tanky, have some way of stealing healthy, and those warframes that don't have something that is really great for them in terms of damage. So Equinox is able to wipe whole rooms of enemies. Um, Garuda has damage multiplication passive. Mirage is also kind of a lot of DPS. And Volt gives you so much things like movement speed. He's just essential in a few things, so he is kind of B tier. And Excalibur, he doesn't have any damage reduction, but he has some survival tools, so he's also able to be in B tier. And we have here C tier, which are warframes that kind of lag. For example, Zaku, he's best of the C tier because he's kind of powerful, but the downside of him is that his defense from his abilities doesn't really work with adaptation, so gaining adaptation stacks on him is not that easy, and because of that, his defense is kind of weaker. Then we have here Baruch, which doesn't have really that much useful ultimate because it's not easy to have always a lot of stacks. And yeah, we have really just frames that are useful only in certain scenarios. Like Frost, he has only good to Frost Glow, but nothing else. Rhino is decent tank and can buff team, but it's not really that much useful in a lot of situations because he's not that tanky, even though the draw gives a lot of buffs, like in terms of damage. Low key invisibility, yeah, a lot of good things here, but I wouldn't pick them into any missions. I could pick any B tier into any steel path missions and be fine, but with the C tier picks, I would be a little bit more careful. Some of those are tanky enough to do that, but still they are not good enough to be picked. Then we have the D tier picks which can be played, and some of them are even tanky, but they are not tanky enough. So that's why they are D tier. Their kit is terrible and they are not tanky enough. Or if they are not just tank warframes, their kits are terrible. So all of these warframes kind of fall in the same category. They are decently enough tanky, but not enough. That's the problem. And their kits are just terrible. So they are not tanky enough and they don't offer anything else. And we have here this Warframe, which I know kind of what he does, but he's just not that strong. Well, I didn't play him, but I know his abilities. I don't know exactly how strong they are, but based from what people said, he's not very tanky. What my understanding of this Warframe is that he has his things that float around him, and he's distracting enemies. He has maybe some damage on his abilities. I would say, he's Vorsnix. So I don't really know this Warframe, so I just put him here. I know him a little bit, but not that much, so I don't care about him. Also, Veruna isn't here because I don't know her at all. But those are the only two Warframes that I don't know. And then we have here Nidus, which has decent passive, but doesn't really have much health. He can potentially be invincible, but he usually it requires you to stay on the ground and spam your one all the time. If you want to spam abilities, spam your crouch with Octavia. It's gonna be much better. And we have here Necros, which is for the resource farming, I guess, but Korra is just much better. There is no reason to pick Necros. Maybe if you want to be damage reduction Necros, it might make sense, but it requires a bit setup. So I don't think it's worth it. Then we have Hydroid, which is he has actually the worst kit in the game, and he needs to be reworked to be good. His two is movement ability, it's terrible. His three is you are invincible, but you deal no damage. His one is CC, and his four is CC, and he only uses one or four. Uh, Usually one if you need to do it fast, four if you want to do it better. But even his 4 CC isn't that good. So there is really no place for him. He's very squishy. He doesn't do anything except a little bit of CC. And even the CC isn't very good. Then we have here Ivera, which is terrible. Some people think she's good, and I really don't understand it. Yes, she can do level 9999 missions, but it's not because she's tanky, it's because she's invisible. And guess who is invisible? A lot of other frames. Octavia is invisible and she's S tier. Why don't you just pick her? Well, you may say, well, I need to spam the ability all the time. Well, I mean crouch. Well, you can go also Loki. You may say, well, Loki cannot refresh his invisibility, therefore he's squishy. And I say, what about the shield gating? You won't get killed if you shield gate. You can also use rolling guard, so there is no real use for Ivara. You have all the time invisibility, but you are like 50% slowed, I think, and your kit is just terrible. You have a bunch of arrows that don't do anything. You have the guide, your projectile thing, which is useless. By the time that you guide your projectile into the target, you could fire like 50 projectiles. So it doesn't make any sense. And then you have your ultimate, which is just useless, doesn't do anything. So I will say that it would be easier for her to be buffed. Um, just reduce the slow on her invisibility, like from 50% to 20%. It might be okay. Make her ultimate better, and change the projectile that you glide somehow. I'm not exactly sure how. Maybe that it would like enchant the next projectile that will hit next 50 enemies in a row by itself, and you wouldn't need to glide it. So yeah, that would be better Iora. But the way how she exists is doesn't make any sense in this game. She's kind of built like for you Assassin's Creed type of character, but it doesn't really make sense. Why would you like try to sneak around if you can pick any of the A tier picks and just decimate everything? No sense for her to be picked. So that's my tier list. Thanks for watching. See you next time.